Tonight, when the lights go out, you might promise yourself something simple. You'll stop scrolling. You'll finish that project. You'll finally start the habit you've been putting off for months. It sounds like a test of self-control. After all, that's what you've been told. In 1972, psychologist Walter Mischel published one of the most famous experiments in psychology. A child sat alone with one marshmallow. Eat it now, or wait and get to later. The children who waited seemed to grow into adults with better grades, healthier lives, and more successful careers. For decades, that tiny marshmallow became a symbol of your future. A few minutes of patience supposedly predicted an entire lifetime. But what if the marshmallow was never measuring self-control in the first place? What if one of psychology's most famous lessons misunderstood what was really happening inside the child's mind? The story begins at Stanford University in the late 1960s. Walter Mischel wanted to understand why some children could resist temptation, while others couldn't. The setup looked brilliantly simple. A child between about 4 and 6 years old sat in a quiet room. A marshmallow was placed on a plate. The researcher left. If the child waited about 15 minutes without eating it, they earned a second marshmallow. If they couldn't wait, they got only one. Years later, Mischel followed many of those children into adulthood. The early results suggested that the children who waited longer tended to have higher SAT scores and better life outcomes. The marshmallow became legendary. Schools taught it. Business books praised it. Parents repeated it. Waiting became a moral victory. Eating became a personal failure. It sounded like science, but there was one problem. The experiment was much smaller than most people realized. The original studies involved fewer than 100 children in the key follow-ups, and many of them were the children of Stanford faculty and graduate students. That matters, because those children grew up in unusually stable, wealthy families. Their world was different before the experiment even began. The marshmallow wasn't appearing inside an ordinary childhood. It was appearing inside a very specific one. Context changes everything. Then another clue appeared. In 2013, psychologists Celeste Kidd, Holly Palmieri, and Richard Aslin at the University of Rochester changed just one part of the experiment. Before the marshmallow test, children interacted with an adult. Some children learned the adult kept promises. Others learned the adult broke them. Then came the marshmallow. The results changed dramatically. Children who experienced the reliable adult waited around for times longer than children who had just learned that adults couldn't be trusted. Nothing inside the children had magically changed. The world around them had. If promises feel real, waiting makes sense. If promises usually disappear, eating now becomes the smart choice. Trust changed patience, not willpower. Then came the biggest challenge yet. In 2018, Tyler Watts, Greg Duncan, and Haonan Kwan analyzed data from more than 900 children in a long-term study called the NICHD Study of Early Child Care and Youth Development. This sample was nearly 10 times larger than the famous original follow-ups. They also controlled for family income, home environment, and early cognitive ability. The famous prediction almost disappeared. The link between waiting longer and later achievement became much smaller than people believed. For many outcomes, family background explained far more than the marshmallow ever did. The child wasn't simply choosing between one treat and two. They were bringing their entire life into the room. Their parents, their neighborhood, their daily experiences, their expectations. Every invisible piece came with them. The marshmallow wasn't measuring a blank mind. It was measuring a lived life. Then you notice something else. Waiting only makes sense when tomorrow is predictable. Your ancestors understood this long before psychology existed. For most of human history, food spoiled quickly. Storms destroyed harvests. Animals escaped. Opportunities vanished. If something valuable appeared today, taking it immediately could be the safest decision. Behavioral ecologists call this responding to environmental uncertainty. And researchers like Daniel Nettle and colleagues have shown that growing up in unpredictable environments changes how people value future rewards. If tomorrow often disappoints you, today becomes more valuable. That isn't weakness, it's adaptation. Your brain learns the rules your world teaches it. Then the story became even more interesting. Walter Mischel himself never claimed the marshmallow measured destiny. Over the years, he repeatedly explained that self-control is a skill, not a fixed personality trait. In his 2014 book, The Marshmallow Test, he described strategies children used to wait. Some looked away, some sang songs, some imagined the marshmallow was a cloud. They weren't born with magical discipline. They were using mental tools. Skills can be learned. Labels cannot. Somehow, the public remembered a much simpler story. Patient children succeed. Impatient children fail. It fit perfectly inside a culture that loves easy explanations. One test, one score, one prediction. But people aren't that simple. The word patience comes from the Latin word patientia, meaning endurance or the ability to suffer. Originally, it wasn't about quietly sitting still. It was about surviving hardship, enduring uncertainty, holding on when life became difficult. Somewhere along the way, patience became confused with obedience. Those are not the same thing. The real turning point wasn't the marshmallow experiment itself. It was what happened after. The study escaped the laboratory. It entered classrooms, parenting advice, corporate seminars, social media. A careful scientific finding slowly transformed into a cultural myth. Modern life helped finish the job. Today, almost every app competes for your attention. Notifications arrive in seconds. Videos autoplay before you've even decided to watch. Online shopping promises delivery tomorrow. Streaming services remove the wait between episodes. Technology keeps teaching your brain that rewards should arrive instantly. Ironically, many people blame themselves for adapting to the very systems designed to make waiting harder. The environment keeps changing. Your brain keeps responding, just like the children in Rochester, just like the children at Stanford. The difference is that your marshmallows now glow inside a screen. So what does this cost you? You might think you're lazy because you can't focus. You might think you lack discipline because habits never stick. You might compare yourself to someone who seems endlessly productive. But you rarely compare environments. One person works in silence. Another works with constant interruptions. One grows up surrounded by reliable support. Another learns that promises often disappear. The behavior looks the same. The reasons are completely different. That doesn't mean self-control isn't real. It is. Thousands of studies show that planning, habits, and delayed gratification matter. But they don't exist in isolation. Your environment shapes what your brain expects. Your experiences shape what feels rational. Your trust shapes what feels worth waiting for. The marshmallow didn't reveal a child's future. It revealed a snapshot of the world that child believed they lived in. And maybe that's the real lesson. When you struggle to wait, what exactly are you waiting for? When you rush toward immediate rewards, what has your world taught you to expect? And if your brain learned those rules once, what new rules could it learn tomorrow? Maybe the most important thing that marshmallow ever revealed wasn't your self-control. It was the quiet story your world had already whispered before the test even began.